Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyata Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabdutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahaganan Lalita Shivishikam Vitamscha Om Jnana Timaranda Shagana Jana Shalaka Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurava Bistam Supurakam Gurganara Sesha Sambhusitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Nipunam Shri Rupa Patanagam Govindam Bidam Ujwalam Bharatanam Bhaktyam Vidam Sundaram Vande Vishwagurun Shah Divyat Bhagavat Prem Noe Bijapranam Devam Divyatanum Suchanda Varanam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sareka Varanam Vairagya Vidyamburim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Varam Bandetam Shubharam Mareka Sharanam Nyashishvara Shidaram Manchakopatarubhyasya Kripasindu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahamananyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratabhishe Namah. So we're hearing from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupad. This is Madhya-lila chapter 5, the activities of Sakshi-gopal. Let's start with verse number 87. Tabe se chota vipra gele brindavan dandavat kore kohe sabivaran. After the meeting, the young Brahmin started for Vrindavan. Upon arriving there, he first offered his respectful obeisances to the deity and then narrated everything in full detail. So this is after the meeting in Vidyanagar, where the young Brahmin said that he would bring a Sakshi-gopal deity to be a witness showing that the elderly Brahmin had promised his daughter to the young Brahmin because he was so satisfied with his service and taking care of him, and that the older Brahmin was being pressured by his family to not do that because they didn't want to accept somebody as in their family who was poor and uneducated. Brahmanya deva tumi boradoya moy dui vipra dharma raka hoya sadai. He said, "My Lord, you're the protector of Brahminical culture, and you are also very merciful. Therefore, kindly show your great mercy by protecting the religious principles of us two Brahmins." Kanya pava moramani iha nahi sukh Brahmanera pratigya jaya e boraduk. My dear Lord, I am not thinking to become happy by getting the daughter as a bride. I am simply thinking that the Brahmin has broken his promise, and that is giving me great pain. Etajane tumi sakshi, etajane tumi saki deho doyamoy, jane saki nahi deya tara papa hoy. The young Brahmin continued, my dear Lord, you are very merciful and you know everything. Therefore, kindly be a witness in this matter. A person who knows things as they are and still does not bear witness becomes involved in sinful activities. Krishna kohe vipratumi jahas swabhavane sabakore moritumi koreya smarane. Lord Krishna replied, my dear Brahman, go back to your home and call a meeting of all the men. In that meeting, just try to remember me. Avirbhava hoya amitaha sakidiba Tabe dui viprer satya pratigya rakiba I shall certainly appear there, and at that time I shall protect the honor of both you Brahmins by bearing witness to the promise. Viprabole Jari Hao Chaturbhuja Murti Tabu Tomar Bhakti Karu Na Habe Pratiti. The young Brahmin replied, My dear Lord, even if you appear there as a four-handed Vishnu deity, still none of those people will believe in your words. A Mortikiya Jari A Sripad Sakideho Charitabe Sarvaloka Shune. Only if you go there in this form of Gopal and speak the words from your beautiful face will your testimony be heard by all the people. Krishna Kohe Pratima Chale Kotahanad Shuni Viprabole Pratigya Haya Kaha Kenibani. Lord Krishna said, I never heard of a deity's walking from one place to another. The Brahmin replied, That is true, but how is it that you are speaking to me, although you are a deity? Pratiman Nahatumi Sakat Brajendra Nandan Vipra Lagi Koratumi Akarya Karan. My dear Lord, you are not a statue. You are directly the son of Maharaj Nanda. Now, for the sake of the old Brahmin, you can do something you have never done before. Ashia-gopal kohe shunaha brahman tomara pache pachiyame koriba gaman. Sri Gopalji then smiled and said, My dear Brahman, just listen to me. I shall walk behind you, and in this way I shall go with you. Ulatiya amatumi na koriya darshane amake dekileami rahiba seistane. The Lord continued, You do not try to see me by turning around. As soon as you see me, I shall remain stationary in that very place. Nupurer dwane matra amara shuniba se shabde amar gaman pratiti koriba. You will know that I am walking behind you by the sound of my ankle bells. Eksera ana randi korea samarpan tahakana tomar sange koriba gaman. Cook 1 kilo of rice daily and offer it. I shall eat that rice and follow behind you. Aradin agyamage shalila brahman tarapache pache gopal korila gaman. The next day the Brahmin begged permission from Gopal and started for his country. Gopal followed him step by step. Nupurer dwane shuni ananditaman utamana baka kore koraya bojan. While Gopal followed the young Brahmin, the tinkling sound of his ankle bells could be heard. The Brahmin became very pleased, and he cooked first-class rice for Gopal to eat. Emate chale bipra nijadeshi aila ramara nikata ashimanete chintila. The young Brahmin walked and walked in this way until he eventually arrived in his own country. When he neared his own village, he began to think as follows. Ebe mui grame ainu jaimu bhavan lokare kohiba giya sakira agaman. I have now come to my village, and I shall go to my home and tell all the people that the witness has arrived. Sakate na dekile mane pratiti na hoy ihanjare rohen tabu na hikachu boy. Brahman then began to think that if the people didn't directly see the Gopal deity, they would not believe that he had arrived. But even if Gopal stays here, he thought, there is still nothing to fear. Eta babe se vipra firya chahila hashinya Gopala deva tatai rahila. Thinking this, the Brahmin turned to look back, and he saw that Gopal, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was standing there smiling. Brahmanere kohetumi jahani jagar etaya rohiba amina jab Attapar, the Lord told the Brahman, now you go home, I shall stay here and shall not leave. Tabise viprajai nagare kohila, shuniya sakala log, chamatkara hoila. The young Brahman then went to the town and informed all the people about Gopal's arrival. Hearing this, the people were struck with wonder. Aila sakala log, saki deki bare, Gopala dekinya log, dandavat kore. All the town people went to see Sakshi-gopal, and when they saw the Lord actually standing there, they offered their respectful obeisances. Gopala Sondarya Deki Loke Anandita Pratima Chaliya Aila Shuniya Vishmita. When the people arrived, they were very pleased to see the beauty of Gopal, and when they heard that he had actually walked there, they were all surprised. Tabe se boravipra nandita haya Gopalera agepare dandavad haya. Then the elderly Brahman, being very pleased, came forward and immediately fell like a stick in front of Gopal. Sakala lokera age Gopala sakidila boravipra chota vipre kanyadana koila. Thus in the presence of all the townspeople, Lord Gopal bore witness that the elderly Brahman had offered his daughter in charity to the young Brahman. Tabe se dui vipre kohila ishwara tumi dui janme amara kinkara. After the marriage ceremony was performed, the Lord informed both Brahmins, you two Brahmins are my eternal servants, birth after birth. Duhara satye tushta hoilan duhe magabar duivipra bharamage ananda antar. The Lord continued, I have become very much pleased by the truthfulness of you both. Now you can ask for a benediction. Thus, with great pleasure, the two Brahmins begged for a benediction. Jadi bara dibe tabe raha estane kinkarere daya taba sarvaloke jane. The Brahmins said, please remain here so that people all over the world will know how merciful you are to your servants. Gopala rohila duhe korana sevan dekite Aila sub desharat lokajan. Lord Gopal stayed and the two Brahmins engaged in his service. After hearing of the incident, many people from different countries began to come to see Gopal. Edeshara Rajaila Ascharya Shuniya Parama Santosha Paila Gopale Dakinya. Eventually, the king of that country heard this wonderful story, and he also came to see Gopal and thus became very satisfied. Mandira Korinya Raja Seva Chalaila Sakshi-gopal Boledara Nama Kyate Hoila. The king constructed a nice temple and regular service was executed. Gopal became very famous under the name of Sakshi-gopal, the witness Gopal. Emata Vidyanagare Sakshi-gopal Seva Angikara Kore Achena Chirakal. The Sakshi-gopal stayed in Vidyanagar and accepted service for a very long time.
May I close?
Okay. Utkaler Raja Purushottama Devanam Sedesha Jinini Nila Koriyas Sangram. Later there was a fight, and this country was conquered by King Purushottama Dev of Orissa. Se Raja Jininila Tara Simasan Manikya Simasananam Aneka Ratan. Se Rajajini Nila Tarasimasan Manikya Simhasana Nama Aneka Ratan. The king was victorious over the king of Vidyanagar, and he took possession of his throne, the Manikya Simhasana, which was bedecked with many jewels. Purushottamadev Se Bora Bhakta Arya Gopala Charane Mage Chala Mora Raja. King Purushottamadev was a great devotee and was advanced in the civilization of the Aryans. He begged at the lotus feet of Gopal, please come to my kingdom. Tara Bhakti Base Gopal Tare Agyadila Gopala Loya Se Katake Aila. When the king begged him to come to his kingdom, Gopal, who was already obliged for his devotional service, accepted his prayer. Thus the king took the Gopal deity and went back to Cuttak. Jagannathe Anidila Manikya Simhasana Katake Gopala Seva Korila Stapan. After winning the Manikya's throne, King Purushottamadev took it to Jagannath Puri and presented it to Lord Jagannath. In the meantime, he also established regular worship of the Gopal deity at Cuttak. Dahara Mahishi Aila Gopala Darshane Bhakti Kore Bahu Alankara Koila Samarpane. When the Gopal deity was installed at Cuttak, the queen of Purushottamadev went to see him and with great devotion presented various kinds of ornaments. Daharana Shate Bahu Muya Mukta Hoy Tahadite Icha Hoila Manete Chintoy. The queen had a very valuable pearl which she wore on her nose, and she wished to give it to Gopal. She then began to think as follows. Takorer Nasate Chari Chidratakita Tabe E Dashe Mukta Nashaya Paraita Takorer Nashate Jari Chidra Takita Tabise Tabi E Dasi Mukta Nashaya Paraita. If there were a hole in the deity's nose, I could transfer the pearl to him. Eta Chinti Namaskari Gela Swabhavane Ratri Seshe Gopal Tare Kohena Swapane. Considering this, the queen offered her obeisances to Gopal and returned to her palace. That night she dreamed that Gopal appeared and began to speak to her as follows. Bayakate Matamora Nasha Chidrakori Mukta Paranachila Bahu Jatnakori. During my childhood, my mother made a hole in my nose and with great endeavor set a pearl there. So the Gopal deity said, when I was a child, my mother pierced my nose and put a pearl there. Say Chidra Ujapiya Sa Achayena Sate Se Mukta Parahajaha Shahijachaya Dite. That very hole is still there, and you can use it to set the pearl you desire to give me. Swapne deke se Rani Rajake Kahila Raja Saha Muktahaya Mandire Aila. After dreaming this, the queen explained it to her husband, the king. Both the king and the queen then went to the temple with the pearl. Paraila Mukta Nashai Chidra Dekinya Maha Mahotsava Koila Anandita Hana. Seeing the hole in the nose of the deity, they set the pearl there and, being very pleased, held a great festival. Se Hointe Gopalera Katake Te Stiti Elagi Saki Gopal Nama Hoilakyati. Since then, Gopal has been situated in the city of Cuttak, and he has been known ever since as Sakshi-gopal. Nityananda Mukhe Shuni Gopala Charita Tushta Hoila Mahaprabhu Swabhakta Sahita. Thus Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard the narration of Gopal's activities. Both he and his personal devotees became very pleased. Gopalera age jabe prabhura hoy stiti bhaktagane deke jena duhe ek murti. When Mahaprabhu was sitting before the Gopal deity, all the devotees saw him and the deity as being of the same form. Duhe ek barna duhe prakanda kor sharir duhe rakta bara duhar sabhava gambir. They were of the same complexion and both had gigantic bodies. Both wore saffron cloth and both were very grave. Mahatejo Maya Duhe Kamalanayan Duhara Baba Beshe Duhara Baba Besha Duhe Chandra Badan. The devotees saw that both Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Gopal were brilliantly effulgent and had eyes like lotuses. They were both absorbed in ecstasy, and both their faces resembled full moons. Duhadeki Nityananda Prabhu Maharange Taratari Kore Hase Bhaktagana Sange. When Nityananda saw the Gopal deity and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in that way, he began to exchange remarks with the devotees, all of whom were smiling. E Mata Maharange E Ratri Banshiya Prabhate Chalila Mango Arati Dekinya. Thus, with great pleasure, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed that night in the temple. After seeing the Mangal Arati ceremony in the morning, he started on his journey. Baba Bhuvaneshwara Pate Jaiche Koila Darshan Mistari Barni Jachan Dasha Vrindavan. In his book Chaitanya Bhagavat, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has very vividly described the places visited by the Lord on the way to Bhuvaneshwara. Kamalapuriyashi Bargin Nadi Snana Koila Nityananda Hate Prabhu Dandadarila. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at Kamalapur, he took his bath in the Barginadi river and left his sannyas staff in the hands of Lord Nityananda. Kapulteshwara Dekite Gela Bhaktagan Sange Eta Nityananda Prabhu Koila Danda Bange Tinakanda Kori Danda Dila Bhashaya Bhaktarange Aila Prabhu Mahesha Dekiya. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the temple of Lord Shiva known as Kapulteshwara, Nityananda Prabhu, who was keeping his sannyas staff in custody, broke the staff in three parts and threw it into the river Barginadi. Later this river became known as Danda Banga Nadi. The mystery of the sannyas Danda staff of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has been explained by Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the order of sannyas from a Mayavadi sannyasi. The Mayavadi sannyasis generally carry one staff or danda. Taking advantage of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's absence, Srila Nityananda Prabhu broke the staff into three parts and threw it into the river, later known as the Danda Banga Nadi. In the sannyas order, there are four divisions: Kuti Chaka, Bahudaka, Hamsha, and Paramahamsha. Only when the sannyas remains on the Kuti Chaka and Bahudaka platforms only when the sannyasi remains on the Kuti Chaka and Bahudaka platforms can he carry a staff or danda. However, when one is elevated to the status of Hamsa or Paramahamsa, after touring and preaching the Bhakti cult, he must give up the sannyas staff. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Sri Krishna, a Supreme Personality of God. It is therefore said, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahayanya, two personalities, Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, are combined in the incarnation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, considering Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be an extraordinary person, Lord Nityananda did not wait for the Paramahamsa stage. He reasoned that the Supreme Personality of God is automatically on the Paramahamsa stage. Therefore, he does not need to carry the sannyas danda. This is the reason why Sri Nityananda Prabhu broke the staff into 3 pieces and threw it into the water. Jagannathera Devuladeki Avishta Hoila Dandavat Kori Premin Nachite Lagila. After seeing the temple of Jagannath from a distant place, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately became ecstatic. After offering obeisance to the temple, he began to dance in the ecstasy of love of God. Bhaktagana Avishtahaya Sabe Nache Gai Premaveshe Prabhu Sange Raja Margejai. All the devotees became ecstatic in the association of Lord Chaitanya, and thus, absorbed in love of God, they were dancing and singing while going along the main road. Hashikande Nache Prabhu Hunkara Garjan Tina Krosha Pata Hoila Sahasra Yojan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu laughed, cried, danced, and made many ecstatic vibrations and sounds. Although the temple was only 6 miles away, to him the distance seemed thousands of miles. Chalite Chalite Prabhu Aila Ataranala Tahanashe Prabhu Kichubaya Prakashila. Thus walking and walking, the Lord eventually arrived at the place known as Ataranala. Arriving there, he expressed his external consciousness, speaking to Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Kohe Prabhu Deho Moradanda Nityananda Kohe Prabhu Deho Moradanda Nityananda Bole Danda Hoila Unakanda. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had thus regained external consciousness, he asked Lord Nityananda Prabhu, please return my danda. Nityananda Prabhu then replied, it has been broken into 3 parts. Premaveshe Parila Tumi Tomare Barinu Darinu. Premaveshe Parila Tumi Tomare Darinu. Thomas Saha Se Danda Upare Parinu. Nityananda Prabhu said, when you fell down in ecstasy, I caught you, but both of us together fell upon the danda, on the staff, the danda. Dui janar bare danda, kanda kanda hoila, ekanda kaha parila kichuna janila. Thus the staff broke under our weight. Where the pieces have gone, I cannot say. Mora aparare tomar danda hoila, kanda je uchita hoy mora kora taradanda. It is certainly because of my offense that your staff was broken. Now you can punish me on this account as you think proper. Shunikichu Mahaprabhu Dukkha Prakashila Ishat Kroda Kore Ikichu Kohide Lagila. After hearing the story about how his staff had been broken, the Lord expressed a little sadness and, displaying a bit of anger, began to speak as follows. Nilachali Ani Mora Sabe Hita Koila Sabe Danda Dana Shila Taha Na Rakila. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you have all benefited me by bringing me to Nilachala. However, Nilacha's Puri. However, my only possession was that one danda, and you have not kept it. Tumi sab age kaha ishwara dekite kiba ami age jai najab sahite. So all of you should go before or behind me to see Lord Jagannath. I shall not go with you. Mukunda datta kohe Prabhu tumi jaha age ami sab pache jab na jab tomara sange. Mukunda datta told Mahaprabhu, my Lord, you should go ahead and allow all the others to follow. We shall not go with you. Ita shuni Prabhu age chalila shigra gati pujadena pare keho dui prabhur mati. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then began to walk very swiftly before all the other devotees. No one could understand the real purpose of the two lords, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. Ihokene danda bange, te hokene bangai, bangana krode te ho ihake doshai. The devotees could not understand why Nityananda Prabhu broke the staff, why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu permitted him to do so, or why after permitting him, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became angry. Danda banga lila e bharama gambir se buje duhara pade jara bhakti dira. The pastime of the breaking of the staff is very deep. Only one whose devotion is fixed upon the lotus feet of the two lords can understand it. Brahmanya Deva Gopalera Mahima Edanya Nityananda Bhakta Jara Shrota Sri Chaitanya. The glories of Lord Gopal, who is merciful to Brahmins, are very great. The narration of Sakshi-gopal was spoken by Nityananda Prabhu and heard by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shraddha Jukta Haya Iha Shune Jai Jan Achire Milaye Tare Gopalacharan. One who hears this narration of Lord Gopal with faith and love very soon attains the lotus feet of Lord Gopal. Shri Rupa Raghunath Bodhijara As Chaitanya Charitamrita Kohe Krishnadas. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya-lila, 5th chapter, describing the activities of Sakshi-gopal. Okay. Hari Haraya Namo Krishna Jadavaya Namo Jadavaya Manavaya Keshavaya Namo Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Garadhara Shiva Sadi Gora Bhaktivedanta Jai Rupa Sanathan Bhatta Raguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raguna Jai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan Jai Te Vignana Shamishta Puran Jai Krishna Nitya-lila Gaurila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyan Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamana Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Joki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Tilak Neriya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramansa Parabhajaka Chariyashtatara Sarasi Shimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramansa Parabhajaka Chariyashtatara Sarasi Shimad Srila Bhakti Rakak Srila Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Sachidananda Bhaktivedanta Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Premsingo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Shri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Swami Prabhu ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Srila Vrindavan Thakur ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat ki jai, Narottam Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu ki jai, Vishvavaranya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupad ki jai, Jayam Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Kusham Ashram Maharaj ki jai, Ananda Gaudiya Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Sri Navadip Dham ki jai, Sri Mayapur ki jai, Saparshada Sri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Saparshada Sriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Sri Koladvip ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai, Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Sevashram ki jai, Ganga Devi ki jai, Tulasi Maharani ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Sri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Sri Radha Krishna Gopika Pradhan Shyam Kana Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Ju ki jai, Sri Purushottam Madam ki jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ju ki jai, Bhakta Prabhara Sri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Sri Nishingadev ki jai, all the assembled devotees ki jai, Sri all the assembled devotees ki jai, 4th of July ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.